What's going on, everybody? It's Andrew Joe Hunt here, and I'm back from my hiatus. Well, I sort of returned when I released Freddy Fazbear Friends, but still, I'm back for more videos, and Fazbear segments will premiere this month once I move in and get settled in. If you want to know what's going on with my move right now, the mortgage has basically been approved of. We got the statements through, and we were able to get things worked out. There were some troubles. We had some troubles with the statements, but we worked it out. And I'm officially going to be getting the keys on the 13th. And I'll be moving on a Wednesday. Because Tuesday, unfortunately, I have overtime. Which sucks. But that's life for you. But without further ado, today we're going to be taking a look at the new Curse of Dreadbear plushies by Funko. Now, when I first saw these plushies, I thought they looked fine, but I was a bit apprehensive at first. But once getting them in hand, these were honestly a lot better than I expected to be. But they're certainly better than the Security Breach plushies. So, we're going to go through them individually, starting with the star himself, Dreadbear. And I think out of the plushies, this one is my favorite. Because he feels like a plushie that was released in the golden age of plushies. Back when plushies didn't have printing. I mean, yeah, you got some printing right here, but outside of that, everything is individually stitched in. From the withering, his endo, which actually isn't a weird, imagine a weird mess of pipes in weird directions. No, it's simply straight down, which indicates a spine. And I'm so glad they gave him an actual bow tie. Unlike Glamrock Freddy. Get out of my life. Oh, if you want to know my thoughts on the Security Breach plushies, I will provide a link to the review. And just a heads up, I'm not too impressed with them, but I don't hate them either. But anyways, back to Curse of Dreadbear. Now, if there is one flaw with this plushie is, as I've already mentioned, this section right here is printed. It's not a huge deal, but I really wish that this section right here was stitched in instead of printed, because everything else isn't printed. And personally, I kind of wish there was a line on his teeth to indicate his lower and upper teeth. And as for his face, I was one of the lucky ones, but if you're unfortunate enough to get a Dreadbear with a deformed face, then he won't look that good. But in spite of these imperfections, I have to say that Dreadbear is a solid plushie overall, and easily my favorite of the set. Now on to Grim Foxy, who's unfortunately the weakest of the four. He's not awful, but he's nowhere near as good as Dreadbear. For starters, yes, I could complain about the printing, but if I'm gonna be honest, guys, the printing is something we're gonna have to get used to. Because it's been a common thing since this location. But at least with this location, the printing on here is at least passable and doesn't look bad. Unlike the Sis location plushies, which their printing wasn't that good. In fact, their colors would bleed through very easily. Well, with Grim Foxy, you get a tiny bit of it, but it's nowhere near as bad. But one issue I do have with them is this weird thing, and the twisted ones have this one too, where they have a snout, but the jaw is stitched in, and it just doesn't look right. It makes me wish that Grim Foxy had a closed mouth, like the previous Foxy plushies, or maybe give it a set of teeth like they did with the prototype Funtime Foxy. Also, I feel like the glow on his body is a bit too bright. If I remember in Curse of Dreadbear, in the level where you have to face him in the maze, the glow on his body was more of a bright orangey yellow rather than a bright yellow. And also, his spine is colored orange for some reason. I get that that's meant to represent the fact that his spine is glowing, but it looks a bit off. Now, as for his hook, it's not good, but it's not bad either. So, out of all the plushies we've gotten, this is probably the weakest. It's not bad, but it's not great either. Okay, now on to the Jacko animatronics, with Jacko Bonnie, and I have to say, I'm not as disappointed as I was with him when I first saw him. I was a bit bummed out when I saw that they were just reusing the base model from Twisted Bonnie. And no, I don't have the Twisted plushies with me because I had little to no motivation to buy any of them. And plus, I'm just not interested in the Twisted animatronics in general. They're just not that interesting to me. But how does the plush look overall? I'd say it's pretty good. I mean, the printing only gets a bit bad when you look at the back, but his ears and his withering is pretty good. Though like with Grim Foxy, his spine also is colored orange. I know it's supposed to be glowing, but I think it looks a bit strange. And luckily he has a bow tie, which please Funko never give Afraid a printed bow tie again. And also, like with Grim Foxy, he has a printed on lower jaw. It's not as bad as Grim Foxy, but again, it still looks a bit cheap. But despite these nitpicks, I still like Jacko Bonnie. I think he's a good plushie. Alright, last but not least is Jacko Chica. And I was worried that Jacko Chica would be a bad plushie, but thank goodness I was wrong. While yes, she does reuse the base for Twisted Chica, this is Twisted Chica done right to me. Because one, she doesn't have these weird anime eyes. She doesn't have a ton of printed on. I mean, yes, this is printed on, but it's not that noticeable. Because, as we all know, that the Nightmare animatronics have very intricate, detailed designs. Funko really can't implement that onto plushies. Plushies are meant to be cute and simplified versions of the characters. And I gotta say, they did a decent job with these guys. But that's not to say this plushie is flawless. I think the way the teeth are made makes it look kind of weird. It makes it look like she has this thick gum that sticks on top of her teeth. And it just doesn't look right. And I kind of wish that the teeth were done in a way Jacko Bonnie's were, just to be consistent with the others, because these look too much like twisted teeth. But luckily she does have 3 toes, which I think should be a thing on all Chica plushies. And I think she overall looks good. So how would my ranking go for these plushies? Overall, I gotta say I'm impressed with these plushies. They're a lot better than I expect them to be. When I first saw the teasers for these things, I was worried that they weren't going to be as good and would be on the same subpar level as the twisted ones. But once these plushies came out, I gotta say they're improvements over those plushies. Yes, they do have issues like at the lower jaw, like the print on jaw syndrome and some other things, but those are really minor issues, and that doesn't stop me from strongly recommending these plushies. This is AndrewJohn100 signing off, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.